Italian cinema has a rich history of exploring themes of love, loss, and identity. Within this rich tapestry, a vibrant subgenre of gay cinema has emerged, offering poignant and powerful stories that resonate with audiences worldwide. This curated list highlights 15 of the best gay Italian films, ranging from heart-wrenching dramas to exuberant comedies, showcasing the diversity and brilliance of Italian LGBTQ+ filmmaking. Loose cannons. Just like the appetizers at an Italian restaurant, we start the list with something light, something that doesn't require much thought to go through. Director Ferzan Özpetek's Loose Cannons is a light-hearted and light-scripted film. The story is set in Lecce, a city in the heel of the Italian boot in the deep south. It focuses on the large Cantone family, whose youngest son Tommaso is about to come out to his parents. One night at the dinner table, just when he's about to break the news to the family, his older brother Antonio announces himself to everyone that he's gay. The father's refusal to accept or understand his older brother's sexuality gives him a heart attack as he fears that his father won't survive the news of both of his two sons being gay. The film is handsomely filmed, and the great-looking, almost perfect settings only seem to enhance the imperfections of the family itself. There are some strong emotional scenes in there, but there are also lots of scenes that could use chopping up. Overall, it is a casual, fun film that you can watch with your group on a lazy weekend. A Special Day. Though it was shot 3 decades after the Second World War, Ettore Scola's A Special Day remains one of the most telling films ever made about Italian fascism, viewing the period's oppressive atmosphere and enforced flag-waving through the prism of a delicate human relationship between a man and a woman. The action takes place on May 6, 1938, when Adolf Hitler and his chiefs of staff, including Joseph Goebbels and Joachim von Ribbentrop, came to Rome to pay a state visit to Benito Mussolini, Il Duce. Though not quite a love story, it perversely plays on the auras of two long-standing icons of screen romance, Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni, turning the audience's desire for cinematic passion upside down. Who could have imagined the glamorous Loren playing a mousy housefrau in an old robe and slippers, or Mastroianni, the prototypical Latin lover, as a gay intellectual? Only in an Italian comedy, perhaps, is the combination thinkable, but A Special Day is no comedy. Mascarpone. The movie follows Antonio, who apparently lives in his own little world. He is operating under the assumption that his loveless marriage with Lorenzo is thriving more than it's failing, but that simply isn't the case. Romantically, the pair have been in trouble for quite some time. However, Lorenzo's threefold admission completely catches Antonio off guard. Firstly, Lorenzo wants a divorce because he is simply no longer in love. Secondly, he has been seeing another man named Enrico for well over a year now. Finally, Lorenzo wants Antonio to move out of their beautiful home together so that Enrico can move in desperate need of a place to stay and a brand new life direction, Antonio sets off on his own for the first time since high school without his former love. Mascarpone posits all the delights of a coming-of-age dramedy, proving that even at age 30, it is still possible to find oneself. Filmed in just 3 weeks in Rome, this Italian production gets a hell of a lot right that few movies of this ilk are even willing to touch. With Giancarlo Camere at its center, following our lead as he figures out his own self-worth is utterly sublime. It is not a happily ever after type movie. Rather, Mascarpone is instead more concerned with character depth and evolution. Which of these movies have you seen? Let us know in the comments below. Fireworks. Gianni and Nino are working-class boys growing up surrounded by overt, toxic machismo. The dark-haired, brooding Gianni works as a mechanic with his mother's boyfriend and is openly mocked for his quiet, effeminate ways. Nino, with angelic curls and broad smile, comes from a chaotic but loving family in the countryside. When they meet, Gianni is seduced by the warm welcome he receives from Nino's family and the easy friendship they establish. But as they get closer and rumors spread that they are lovers, Gianni becomes more defiant with the bullies, and Nino's parents start to fear for the future. Giuseppe Fiorello's sun-drenched film Fireworks captures the essence of young queer summer love in the 80s. Impromptu dips in natural creeks, basking in the nighttime heat, the colors of fireworks lighting up the sky. The glorious visuals make the aggressive local culture and homophobia just a bit more bearable until Fiorello is ready to hit home. Me, Myself, and Her A common woman-loves woman movie complaint is there's too many factors stopping lesbian couples from being together. Such narratives can be frustrating or downright depressing. Constantly seeing stories about how women can't be together because of major external pressure can wear a person down. Me, Myself, and Her is here to offer the alternative. These characters experience very little conflict or external pressure. Me, Myself, and Her is one of the most conflict-light lesbian movies I've ever seen, and to that point, one may find it boring too. Me, Myself, and Her focuses on the day-to-day relationship of middle-aged couple Frederica and Marina. After 5 years together, their relationship is domestic to the point of boring. Their growing distance compounds when actress Marina reveals their relationship in an interview. The reserved Frederica worries deeply about the fallout from Marina outing them. While a new film project demands Marina's focus, Frederica's unease about their relationship grows. So Frederica begins an affair with a male acquaintance. Obviously, Marina and Frederica's relationship falls apart. The couple must decide if being together is worth the messier, less romantic parts of a long-term relationship. David's Birthday. This film from Italian filmmaker Marco Filiberti begins at the opera. The four lead characters are attending a performance of Wagner's Tristan and Isolde. The opera's tragic tale of forbidden love and repression will be echoed in the story to come. Matteo is a happily married psychologist with his wife Francesca and a daughter who is 8. Their friends Diego and Sherry have been married and separated so many times that they've lost track. They are expecting a visit from their son, David, who has been attending college in New York. He will be spending his birthday with them. Matteo remarks that he hasn't seen David since he was 8 years old. Matteo is stunned when he sees him again. 10 years have made a big difference, and David is a beautiful young man with a mop of curly hair and chiseled muscles. He's also an underwear model. Matteo watches the young Adonis getting out of a pool. "Do you remember me?" He stammers when the youth turns towards him. David smiles, his face lighting up, and says, "Yes, you used to hold me in your arms." The moment couldn't be more sexually charged. We don't know if Matteo has been previously suppressing same-sex desires, but one look at David and he is swooning like a schoolgirl. But a love this forbidden is doomed to tragedy, and Wagner's music signals that this will be a catastrophe of operatic proportions. Ambitious but uneven, David's Birthday is an entertaining guilty pleasure that grows on you the more that you ponder the tangled web it weaves. What are your favorite gay Italian movies that we missed? Share your recommendations in the comments. An almost ordinary summer start with a wildly improbable premise. Throw in a huge cast of characters, let them all be Italians, and you're in for a madcap romp that must set a record for number of words spoken in a 100-minute film. The premise is the impending marriage of two older Italian men, each the head of a large household of wives and mistresses, children and grandchildren, who announce to their respective families that they've fallen in love and plan to tie the knot in 3 weeks. Actually, only one of the men goes through with the announcement, namely Tony, who delivers the news to his family on the terrace of his sprawling seaside villa. His husband-to-be, Carlo, a fisherman by trade, can't get up the nerve to tell his working-class wife and kids, who've been invited to spend the summer in Tony's cottage on the estate. It's all very Fellini-esque, confusing even, as the subtitles can scarcely keep up with the rapid-fire dialogue. Every new disturbance seems to throw the wedding into greater jeopardy, which gives the movie its unifying question: can this marriage plan be saved? Nuovo Olimpo. The story takes place in Rome during the 1970s, where Enea, a self-assured and aspiring young director, meets Pietro, a bashful medical student with no prior experience with men. They cross paths at the Nuovo Olimpo cinema, and an instant attraction ignites between them. While Enea suggests going to the cinema bathroom, which is a common practice among the visitors, Pietro prefers to be alone with Enea and not surrounded by strangers. Two young men fall in love and spend a few incredible days together. However, as time passes, they catch their own lanes in life. Nuovo Olimpo is, unfortunately, not always enough to make its delightful concept work. It's nice to have a gay romance with a deep question at its heart, but it would be nicer to have an interesting movie. One Kiss. Being different means you are always going to find it hard to find in conventional society, especially school, so perhaps the best way to beat the bullies and those who ostracize you is to embrace your individuality to the hilt. This is the MO of the protagonist in this Italian coming-of-age comedy drama, which takes a tragic turn after the titular smooch. Lorenzo is an openly gay teen boy, recently arriving in a small town after being adopted from an orphanage in Turin. His flamboyant personality doesn't endear him to his classmates at his new school, except for Blue, a smart, feisty girl harassed for her sexual exploits. Also in his class is quiet basketball player Antonio, still grieving the loss of his brother. As outsiders, things can get lonely for them, but Lorenzo's arrival and his nonchalant attitude towards his haters provides a spark for Blue and Antonio to learn to live with themselves and ignore the others, enjoying their exclusive friendship as a trio. But as ever, romantic feelings threaten to ruin this, as Antonio is in love with Blue, whilst Lorenzo has his eyes on Antonio. The three main actors deliver assured and accomplished performances for newcomers, despite looking way older than their characters' 15 years of age. Had One Kiss been able to boast a better ratio of 90% build-up and 10% climax, it might have been able to resolve some lingering issues the end leaves open. Which director or actor do you think is the most important figure in Italian gay cinema? Let us know in the comments. Darker Than Midnight. Few who watched Darker Than Midnight, Sebastiano Rizzo's savvy first venture into directing, are likely to associate the 14-year-old protag Davide with Davide Cordova, who after a rough adolescence in Sicily achieved fame on the Roman stage as the drag queen Fucsia. The story of his traumatic break with his family and adoption by a group of eccentric but friendly gay and trans street people is told with the kind of earnest sincerity that will please some odds and irritate others, especially those looking for stronger emotions. Still, fine tech work makes this low-budgeter look modern, and the film should sail merrily on after its bow among both audiences and critics. Lord of the Ants. Oscar Wilde may be the most famous person to face imprisonment for being gay, but he wasn't the only one to suffer under an archaic legal system. Set in the 1960s in Italy, Gianni Amelio's expansive historical drama, Lord of the Ants, uncovers the story of Aldo Braibanti, an Italian playwright, poet, and director who faced imprisonment for a consensual relationship with a younger student. Lord of the Ants holds a mirror to this shameful chapter in Italian history, painting an elegant but wrenching portrait of the cruelties gay men faced at the time. Despite the deep subject and a good plot to work on, the movie can feel like it has suffocated itself. Also, there are dubious amounts of insect metaphors here, which is, well, weird at times. Lazarus Come Out. 45-year-old Don Valter is a traditional priest who still wears an old-fashioned black tunic out of nostalgia. One day, young Claudio and his exuberant troupe of actors appear, proposing to perform an avant-garde show based on the Gospel's miracle of the rebirth of Lazarus. The powerless priest is overwhelmed by this young upstart, who stirs within him emotions that will, whether he likes it or not, pull him into the modern era. A viewer reviewed this on IMDb as, "I don't know what I just watched, but I like it. The actor playing Claudio is one of the most beautiful men I have ever seen, 3.5 out of 5. And honestly, I cannot add anything more substantial to this. What characteristics does Italian gay cinema have different to American movies of the same vein? Let us know in the comments section below. My Big Gay Italian Wedding. It may sound like a spin-off of Nia Vardalos' ridiculously successful 2002 My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but this Italian film was inspired by a small, off-Broadway play that premiered in 2000 New York City in 2003. It was well received, particularly within the gay community, and it inspired writer Anthony J. Wilkinson to pen 2 sequels, My Big Gay Italian Funeral and My Big Gay Italian Midlife Crisis. It begins on a romantic note, though. Antonio pulls out a silver ring from his pocket. A surprised Paolo is quick to say yes, and the wedding preparations can now begin. Every character in the film has self-generated problems, and instead of going for the obvious solution, they follow romantic comedy cliches and make life as difficult as possible. My Big Gay Italian Wedding is a likable crowd pleaser with plenty of genuine giggles. The well-chosen cast do a great job stepping into the shoes of these self-absorbed characters, and the screenplay has a nice mix of scenes that balance the craziness with the tenderness. The Neighbor or Hotel Milano. Marazzo's The Neighbor, titled Hotel Milano in Italy, is a melodramatically tragic gay romance about two lovers kept apart after one is beaten into a coma by gay-bashing skinheads. The comatose Luca has no idea his conservative Catholic family won't let his "we are going to get old together, don't forget that" partner Ricky visit and try to comfort him because his parents are grieving, but still fully capable of blaming Ricky for luring their son away and is thus responsible for him being in the hospital. Luca's sister is tolerant and compassionate enough to give the frantic Ricky updates, but she won't tell him which hospital Luca's in and can't broach the subject of him visiting with her dogmatic parents. Marazzo's film begins with the bullying that leads to the beating, and as Luca lies in the hospital, unresponsive with his doctor bracing everyone for the worst, Ricky's flashbacks flesh out their romance and the ugly history he has with the gang leader who beat his lover almost to death simply for being gay. Ernesto. This was surprisingly frank for its time. Based on a scandalous novel published posthumously after the author's death, it has homosexuality, bisexuality, cross-dressing, pedophilia, exploitation, and sex across class lines, all set in 1898 in Trieste. It can also be seen as a critique of the social climbing bourgeoisie, centering around a self-centered youth named Ernesto. Ernesto is a 17-year-old middle-class Jewish boy whose mother brought shame on her family by having sex out of wedlock and marrying a lower-class man who promptly deserted her. He works as a clerk in a grain warehouse and is aware of his sexual attraction to a male laborer, called only the Man, who himself is attracted to teens. The Man pressures Ernesto to have sex and they have an affair. When the Man falls in love with him, Ernesto realizes the power by using his attractiveness to seduce others. He then cruelly leaves the Man, seeking ways to advance. We hope this list has inspired you to explore the rich and diverse world of gay Italian cinema. Subscribe and tell your friends too for similar videos.